Welcome to the first Digital Identity workshop at the Digital Lounge. We're going to go ahead and get started with Lightroom today. Now, if you come to the physical workshop, we'll have an entire photo studio set up where we can take your photos and then go over importing them. But I'm going to assume that either you came in or you have photos that you would like to bring in and get started with. So let me show you how we do that. Now, we already have photos imported into Lightroom here, but in case you don't have photos that are directly in Lightroom, it's very easy to import the photos. File, Photos and Video, no different than any other folder. You navigate to your folder, you select them here, you check them or uncheck them. You can do ones individually. Let's say you can uncheck them all or click here, whatever you want. Then you go ahead and hit import. Once you import, then it'll make a nice little folder for you over here, and that's where you'll. As you can see, we took a bunch of different photos, changed the lighting a little bit, had fun, did some funny photos, jumping up and down, and the one that we kind of liked the best ended up being this one. And I will show you how to crop, how to edit, how to adjust some of the contrast settings, and then finally how to export it. So this is the crop button right here. If you click it, it'll bring up a little overlay, and you can go ahead and make it a little bit smaller right here if you'd like. Let's say this is a mugshot for LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. Maybe you want to do a 3/4 shot, and maybe move it about here or so. Line the eyes up maybe on the first third there. Let's see how that looks. Not bad, pretty good. So we'll go ahead and we're fortunate because Erica has really nice skin here. But I will show you how to make a couple of adjustments to make a great photo. Starting with the exposure is pretty good here. How do you know if it's pretty good? Well, in the upper right hand corner over here, we have what we call a histogram. A histogram basically is a measurement of light. The higher the values over here, these are our whites, the more white we have in it. In an overexposed photo, these will be very high. And transversely over here, we have the lower values. If it's a very dark photo, we'll have high peaks on this side. And just to kind of demo that, if I pull it down, as you can see, all the information goes over there. If I overexpose it, all the information goes over there. We did a pretty good job of exposing this image in camera, so as you can see, it's pretty good, kind of nice and even. You'll notice that there are some peaks back here. That's because when we had set this up, we completely blew out the background in case we wanted to cut out the picture and put it somewhere else. In this case, we don't need to, but it is an option that you can do. So the temperature right here, this kind of controls whether you have a warm image or a cool image. This is great if you don't white balance your camera, or for whatever reason, you shot an image that's under a fluorescent light and maybe you need to play with that a little bit. Sometimes fluorescent makes green, so you might want to add a little more pink or add a little more green. Or maybe you shot it outside and you wanted to, you shot it at sunset, but you want it to look a little more white, so maybe you'll add a little blue into it. That's what the temperature over here does. The tone over here, we just played with the exposure settings. Contrast does exactly, it just ups the whites and brings down the darks. I don't really recommend using the contrast slider because there's a better way to do it with the tonal curves down here, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now, if you don't want to play with the tonal curves, this is kind of an expansion of the contrast slider, and this is actually a great way to control it. If you want to bring up the highlights a little bit, you can crank those, you can pull them down. The shadows, we can pull those down, pull them up. Absolute whites and absolute blacks, those work great as well. Like I said, you still can do that over here, and I'll show you. I can just pull up the highlights here, or pull it down. Or you can do the mid-level, pull it up, or pull it down. Or if I just want to control the darks and the shadows, I can pull those up or pull those down right here. I think that's kind of a better way to do it because you have a little more control. I skipped over clarity here. If we crank the clarity, you can see what it does is it runs a Photoshop filter on it. And this is also known as a high pass filter. Sometimes you like that effect. Sometimes it'll make your images look really cool. In this case, I don't think it's really giving us anything, but that's something you can play with. Vibrance is always a great thing to do if you want to add color or remove color. As you can see, we kind of get that washed out look. Or if we crank it, it's very saturated. It's always better to play with vibrance than saturation, because saturation actually adds color rather than, you get Oompa Loompas, rather than just amplifying what's already there. So if you're going to crank colors, I recommend that you use vibrance. Another thing that we can do is we can change the image to black and white. And you may say, okay, well, what are all these color settings down here if we have a black and white image? How would that have any effect? Well, traditionally when you shot black and white, you would use a filter on front of the camera. And sometimes it would be a red filter, sometimes it would be a blue filter, and all a filter is a little piece of glass that's been tinted. And so what that does is these kind of replicate those filters. So if you, let's say you had a red filter and you shot film on a black and white, what it does is it filters out the red channel, and we know that her shirt is red, but if we filtered it out, it would be black, or we could crank it and it could be white. So that's kind of a nice way to get a little bit of a contrast or drama into your image, depending on what you want to pull out or put in. For the meantime, let's just go ahead and leave it on color. For right now, you don't need to worry too much about split toning. Detail right here. We can sharpen the image, make it pretty razor sharp. Bring it up. Makes it very crispy, or you can leave it down, whichever you like. If you want to go for a slightly smoother image, you can use some of the noise reduction here and pull that up. If you got a really noisy image, maybe you shot it on an iPhone or whatever, that kind of helps a little bit. Smoothness you can bring up and down. As you can see, it doesn't make too much of a difference, but you'll find when you're playing with your own images that sometimes those little tweaks add a lot. Vignetting is another interesting idea. That just puts a little halo around the end. So let's say you want to like bring it down a little bit. You can increase it, bring it down. That's the midpoint, the roundness, whatever. Kind of an interesting way to edit your photos. Very important, kind of puts all the emphasis directly in the middle. I'll just Command Z undoes those. And then you can also add grain. Let's say you have a very flat image and it looks kind of fake. You can add a little more grain in there, and that'll give a little more of the film look, as you can see right there. Personally, I don't care for it for this particular image. So let's see. Let's get into some of the more advanced ideas with Lightroom. I already showed you how to crop right here, and there's the image. Turn the crop overlay. But let's say you have a skin blemish that you want to go through and remove. Well, Lightroom makes that very easy. Using this particular tool right here, this is called a spot heal or a spot clone. What heal does is you can just select any particular object. Say we've got a little blemish right here. If we click it, this little guy right here will replace it with another piece of skin. I know it's kind of a crazy idea, but as you can see, it works quite nice. All of a sudden the blemish is gone. And you can go ahead and change the size of the brush here. Make it real big if you got a big blemish, make it real small if you got a little one. Or you can also use this brush to clone certain things. For example, we have a beauty mark right here. Let's say we want another one. Oh, I don't know. Let's grab that. And let's say we want another one. Nope, vice versa rather. Let's say we want it right here. And then we'll go ahead and pull this right there. As you can see, gives us a little beauty mark right there. Now it's not perfect. As you can see, there'll be times where you'll need to, adjust accordingly and play with it a little bit. But every now and then it's a good brush to use. So I'm going to just Command Z out of that. Or Control Z if you're on a PC. You also can adjust the opacity on there. The opacity means how much control you want the effect to have. So if I pull it down, I'm sorry, you have to select a particular selection, like this one right here. If I pull it down, there we go. You can see that, Little skin blemish is back. Bring it up, 100% gone. So that's the spot heal and clone brush. This button right here is if you have a red eye. Every now and then you'll get a red eye if you're shooting a photo. We don't have that problem here, but it's just a matter of, it just works just like the clone brush. You go ahead and click it and it'll automatically remove a red eye. This right here is a gradient, and I'll show you how that works. Let me just zoom out real quick. Command minus is a quick way to zoom out. And we're beach balling a little bit right here. Click the tool. Now what this will do is this will add a gradient across the board. So if I pull this down, you see how this is controlling this? It's using an exposure value to pull it down. Well, when would you use something like this? Let's say you shot an image that's next to a window and the sun's blasting in and you want to blow out that window. This is a great tool to use. There's a couple of things that you can play with here. You know, you can use it on the exposure level, you can do contrast, you can do shadows, all the same as on the standard settings here, but it just kind of gives you a little more control on where you want to put those gradients. This right here is a circle gradient tool. It does exactly the same thing, but just does it in an ellipse or a circle if you like. Once again, play with the contrast. You can invert it, very easy to invert. You can feather it out, which just changes the softness on how dramatic that circle is. Go ahead and Command Z out of that. So what this tool does right here is it does exactly the same thing as our graduated filter and our radial filter, but instead of it being a circle or a square, you can go ahead and draw with a brush. And I'll draw through something right here. And then as you can see, as I pull the exposure down or pull it up, we have a lot of control because we're using a little brush right here instead of just a circle or a square. So now that we have the image that we want, I'll show you how to export it. Go ahead and hit done over here on the develop settings. Now what we can do is come over here and say export. We will export. Let's see, we'll go ahead and find a nice spot to put it. How about on the desktop? We'll call it, put it in a subfolder, it'd be fine. We'll call it Erica. And you can rename files in a sequence if you like, so it'll come out to be Erica Test 801. That's not really important to me. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but no big deal. Here's an important part, is our file settings. Let's say we're going to put this on the internet. A JPEG is probably the best thing to use for the internet. Color space sRGB is fine. You can limit the file size if you'd like. That's not really too important to me. But I do not want this image to be too large. Let's say I simply want it to be, let's say 500 by 500. Now I'll go ahead and hit export. And we can go ahead and check it out. There we are right there. 500 by 500 image. Thank you for watching the start of the DIY series. I hope you come by and check us out in a day where we have the photo studio set up. And then hopefully you can use Lightroom to make your own headshots. Thank you.